and welcome to the Brutal Iron Gym podcast, where our goal is to cut through the BS and deliver the brutal truth about topics related to health and happiness. And you may have heard by that little giggle, I'm joined with my wife Meredith.
With my buddy. Yeah.
So Meredith is with me today. So it's podcast 1671. Topic is with Meredith. We didn't even assign a topic. We don't need one when you're around. We throw all the rules out.
We'll figure the title out at the end of it.
That'll work, yes. And then it's how to get ahead while feeling behind.
There's your title.
There you go, yes. So, who doesn't feel behind? Do you feel behind ever?
All the time.
All the time?
24/8.
Oh, yeah, that was excellent. Well done. Yeah. So, it'd be nice if you could add to that 24.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know if I want an 8th day. I'm just tired of the 7. Yeah.
If it was like extra weekend, sure.
Hey.
Or if you get to like just sleep for the one.
So, if you had a 3-day weekend, how would you spend your 3 days?
Like ideally, or just what I do now and more of it?
No, yeah, like if you got a plan, like say all of a sudden
sleep.
You have a new rule. Okay.
Nothing interrupting my sleep.
Yes.
Step 1. The gym.
Ooh, there you go.
Silence my cell phone.
Ooh, yes, I think that's a good one.
I'd plan.
Oh,
Like,
okay.
paper planning.
Yes, you have all your plannery books.
Yeah, and I don't even know how is that scary? I don't know how I would spend time.
No,
like,
that's
we'd
not
be
scary.
together.
It was a random question, and
yeah,
it's like, why would you think of what to do with it if you're never going to get it? If that makes sense. So what would I do with more time? Why would I bother with that? I'm never going to get more time.
Yeah, let's think about that and get sad.
Yeah, well, that's actually part of what we're talking about today. Is there is no more time.
Right.
You just have to manage the time you have.
Yeah.
I don't know about better. Just manage it different if you want a different outcome.
I'll date myself, but do you remember the meme that was going around, I don't know, 4 years ago, 5 years ago, and it was like, even Beyonce only has 24 hours in a day.
No, but that's fantastic. And I have seen like concepts like that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And I was like, yeah, but it's a Beyonce 24 hours. It's not my 24 hours.
Yes. It's very different. Like, we talk about Oprah Rich.
Yeah.
Like, if you had
There's
so
a lot
much
of people helping.
Yeah. I feel like life would be, like, people are like, more money, more problems.
Mm-hmm.
I would be
I'm like, I'd be tempted.
Let's
give it a shot.
I would like a little bit of those problems, I believe. Yeah.
But time, we're not getting more of it.
No. So, with our title, How to Get Ahead While Feeling Behind, we have recently, in the last couple months here, have been feeling like you've been getting a little bit ahead.
Caught up.
Okay, that's a good one.
Caught up.
How to get caught up while feeling behind.
Yeah, so I don't know if we've talked about it in prior podcasts, but I do a word of the year, and I take it very seriously.
It is very good. Very good.
And I contemplate for quite some time, trying to figure it out, reflect on the year, where do I want to go, what's the one thing I can look back to all year and be like, this is what I need to do, refocus, and go forward, right?
It's like a year-long mantra.
Yeah. So mine this year was refine.
Yes.
Yeah. So, and that was just taking into consideration the last few years, and we'll talk more about that, because really what we're talking about is in line with that.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. So what was your word last year?
Reset.
Yes, so it was reset, and you got things reset.
I did.
And then this year is refining what you reset.
Correct.
So that was really a good sequence, very intelligent.
Yeah.
So no surprise there. Very good idea. Yes.
And I learned to set like realistic goals, like things I can control.
Mm-hmm.
I can't control other things outside of.
What's an example of something you can control and something you can't control?
I can control if I decide to, for instance, during the height of the pandemic, 2020, when I lost that job opportunity and like the world's worst timing incident that we can call it.
Yes, that was absolutely horrendous.
And I said I'm going to study for the CAPM and I'm going to pass it.
Yes.
And I did.
Yes.
And then I'm going to study for the PMP and pass it, and I did.
Yes.
That could be a podcast in itself.
Yeah,
all of those hoops to have to.
A lot of effort. Yes.
Holy cow! I have to keep. I'm like censoring myself in my head, so I don't want to say anything bad on the podcast. So that you can control, really. I can control what I put in my face.
That's true. You control your food.
I can't control what happens to me at work. I
That's
used
very
to think I could, but I
Yeah.
can't.
No.
You know, like get a scholarship. Can you really control that? I'm just trying to think of other
No,
things
that's
that are
good.
really
Yeah.
outside of your control.
And I think there's obviously as well like degrees of control. So, for example, we can control what we put on our face. However, if somebody has an emotional attachment with food, they can control that, quote unquote. But that's a lifelong kind of process.
I've been there too.
That's a lot of work.
Yeah.
So we're not saying, black and white, blah, blah, blah. We both have had eating disorders.
Yeah.
So we both know that
True.
it's
I
a
should
process.
significantly disclaimer that since
Oh, no,
this
I
is
think
also
it's good. that
got to
you brought
release
that
in
up
Mental Health
because
Awareness Month.
There's some brutal truth to the fact that you can't control it.
I did. Yeah, I had
That's some
I had
good truth.
significant. I mean, I think I was it when I had the tumor also. But I was an emotional eater and didn't even know it for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And it had stuck with me, and that was just like the ABCs of eating disorders: anorexia, bulimia, exercise bulimia, compulsive overeating. Like you can't get away from all. Like you don't have just one.
Yeah, it's usually like a mix.
Yeah. So
People that go through moments and
yeah.
seasons and stuff.
So I did. I went through that, and it was like I think back to like my grandfather smoking 3 packs a day and then just saying, "Okay, I'm done today," and for the rest of my life, and he did.
Which is wild.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I probably have that gene. Never smoked. Just the like I'm just gonna decide to do something.
Yeah.
And I
There's
do it.
Strong will.
Yeah. But I did. At the time, I did the whole 30 as a challenge, but I did a whole 60.
Yeah. Which
So I
is
did it back
badass.
to back for 60 whole days, and since that, like the author of the book even like commented on my Instagram when I did it, which was really fun. She was really
That's
sweet.
awesome.
We messaged. She was
Good
very
recognition. Good
very
for you.
cool person. But yeah, since that in when was it? 2014-ish maybe. I'll probably correct myself when I realize that's not the year in like.
So if she
years.
randomly yells out a year.
That's
later
what it
in
is.
the podcast, that's what we're referencing.
Yeah. Gosh, talk about a blur. Yeah, I think it was like 2014 when I just decided to do that, and I've never binged or emotional ate again after that. Never.
Good for you. That's awesome.
At some point, I was like keeping track, and then I just said, I don't do that anymore. That's now no longer something I do.
Yeah, I think that's a really cool story, cool
Yeah.
experience.
So that really did change my life. So
Yeah. So that is something that people can control, but there's going to be different levels of work that goes into controlling things.
right.
Yes. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
tangent, but relevant because we can't just like I don't
Yes,
want to
I
just
think
blow
so.
past that.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
a lot of times clients that I work with, like sometimes they'll talk about self-sabotage, dealing with nutrition,
Yeah.
and it is challenging because they know they can control it, quote unquote. They know that it's bad for them, but yet it still happens.
Yeah.
And that's something that I think is just good to touch on. Is it's something you can control, but it for some people it's not like a light switch.
Yeah.
You controlling it is a messy process of correcting it, and that's what some people have to go through.
And we can talk about the messy middle because that ties in.
Yeah. So why don't you go into that?
Yeah, and I just also disclaimer like we've talked sometimes about my background in doing bodybuilding competitions, but I knew I couldn't go into what I thought a prep would be for a show until my like mindset was right about food.
No, that's good
So I didn't do a
self-awareness.
show for 3 years after that like whole 60 experiment.
Good for you. Yeah.
So also just want to throw that out there.
Mm-hmm.
Messy middle,
Yeah.
it's fun. Sucks sometimes.
Yeah. Yes.
And that definitely leads into like what we wanted to talk about. So Rob and I went on our first vacation
Yeah, like a true legitimate
2 months
got away
ago.
from life vacation.
2 months ago. First vacation. It was a week without human contact for the most part.
As much as possible.
Oh my God. But it was also bonus our honeymoon 3 years later.
Yep. At least we got it in.
Yep.
Yeah.
If that tells you any state. I mean, even COVID aside.
Yeah.
Like,
Just been busy.
we just couldn't. So the messy middle is when you feel like you have 1,000,001 responsibilities or pressures or expectations on you, and you're trying to not toy with, but you're trying to set the boundaries and figure out, what do I really need for me?
Yeah, how do I take control?
How do I was having migraines constantly. Knock on wood, they've been a lot better, but I was having migraines all the time. Now, I didn't really have a first migraine until 2020 when I lost that job.
Yeah, that's wild.
Then I had aura migraines, so your vision goes blurry. That's terrifying. And I don't want to... I was a biochemistry major. I was pre-med. I believe in medicine.
Yes.
I believe in prescriptions. I believe in doing what you need to do under guidance of a medical professional.
Okay, we've established that. We know.
Disclaimer.
Yes.
I also don't want to be dependent on things. Now, I have to take thyroid medicine every day.
Yeah.
Got it, right? I don't have to take migraine medicine every day. So something like that is, I'm choosing for myself to say, how can I address this alternatively?
Yeah, like without medicine, if it's something you can actually control without medicine.
Right. So when we went to our doctor in January, and I said, I'm getting a lot of migraines. I'm just really tired all the time. I really want my blood work. And the response was, well, who isn't? I was like, that's great.
That's lovely.
Don't go to a doctor on a Friday afternoon.
Yes.
Because they're just done.
They're exhausted.
Yeah.
Yes.
And they've had a hard few years, to say the least.
Yes.
So we said, okay. We took it as an opportunity that when we went away on vacation, fun story about the drive down, but when we went on vacation, we realized that we couldn't come back to the life we had.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I say that we have an amazing life.
Oh, we're very blessed.
Very, very blessed. But stepping away from everything, realized it was like you're just like hitting your head with a hammer, and all of a sudden the hammer stops, and you're like, oh, wow.
My head doesn't hurt.
My head doesn't hurt. I don't have a weird bruise on my forehead.
Yeah.
Like, I don't feel any, so.
Well, I think, like, we were going into the vacation, there was just, it feels like you're moving a million miles an hour all day.
Yeah.
Like, every day you work all day, but you still end the day behind.
Yeah.
And that was just a prolonged feeling.
Yeah.
Like, we've had that for, like, 3 years, it feels like.
Oh my God.
And we were
I feel
just
like
getting
I'd
to the
bore
point-
people talking about how much there was. But
I don't think so, because I think a lot of people, they have these same struggles.
Yeah.
So it helps to hear that somebody else is also feeling
Yeah.
it. So, for example, we have great lives we're very blessed and
Yeah.
feel grateful for,
Yeah.
but yet there's components of our life that are highly stressful.
We don't see
and
people.
we would like to make change. So I think
Yeah.
everybody struggles with that. Everybody has things they're grateful
It
for.
has to be unanimous.
But also things you would love to change, you feel stressed over.
Yeah.
And just because you have things you want to change doesn't mean you're not grateful for the things you do have.
Yeah.
Yada, yada, yada.
We're not introverts. We don't go down like spirals in our brain or anything all the time.
Yes, yeah. But
Yeah.
I think it's helpful for people to hear that.
Yeah, so definitely very, very grateful and had a lot of really good, but like we also had so much stress, and who doesn't, but for 3 straight years, almost 4
Yeah.
straight years. For an example, Rob bought me a little, it's not a toy thing,
A
figurine
dumpster fire. Yes.
in like July of 2020. And that was before like the real dumpster fire started.
Yeah, that was.
So it's been a
That
few
was the
years.
cute dumpster fire.
Yeah.
Like there's a couple
Where it's
that
like, oh,
kept
that's
happening.
cute.
Yeah. It's like, oh, this will be funny. This will make her laugh for the day.
Yeah.
And then laughter left the building.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
But when we came back from the cruise, we knew that we wanted to come back to things being different. We wanted to have more of a sense of controlling, rather than reacting to the day. How can we control the day?
Mm-hmm.
And what were some elements that you wanted to bring back into your regular routine?
Working out.
Yes.
So like I just recently on my Instagram, which I think is still private, but you posted it, so I reshared it.
Yes.
It was a before and after. So my quest, I think I've talked about it on the podcast before.
Yeah.
My quest for my perfect glutes.
Yes.
Right? So hated my glutes for a really long time. And I don't know, it was just like my body felt like it was misshapen from dance. Right? And then I built my body in such a way that I built it not having corrected, not having corrected how my body was built in a sense. So, it just, it took some time, and during the first year it was a lot of rehab, and then I realized last year I didn't go to the gym, which, I mean, we own the gym. I didn't go to the gym for 6 months. And so the photo on the left on Rob's post was in July. So it was, okay, this is where I'm starting. I've not gone to the gym. I've not worked out for 6 months. I was so burned out from life. Yeah. Feeling like it was beating me down. I didn't go to the gym for 6 months. That's impossible. Yeah. You, for the first time in your life, had a stretch where you weren't working out. We got beat down. And I said, I can't do this. This is a huge part of me, and I'm not doing it. I'm not making the time for it. Yeah. Right? And so, for me, a fault of mine is I need to do my job, and I'm all in. And then I have goals. I need to get into school. I need to study. I can't sleep at night if I feel like I missed an opportunity to study in advance. So my mind goes to achieving first. If I'm not getting on stage soon, so I don't need to do it, and you just put it off. And I'm not going to compete soon, so you keep putting it off because other priorities were there. And then I realized I'm miserable. Yeah. I did what I had to do and what I wanted to do for so long. I said, okay, now there's no excuse. I can at least get 10 minutes of X, Y in, and I can do 5-10 minutes of Z in. No matter what it is.
Yeah, you started trying to say, basically, I want these elements back in, so I'm going to find a way to get them back.
Yeah. And I would venture to say that the photo that we posted on your account, the before-after, was probably, more than likely, the majority of the work that was done.
Oh, yeah, in the last maybe, roughly.
Yeah, let me look. 10 weeks and 2 days.
Yes, so almost 2.5 months.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's because you've been able to reprioritize exercise. You've always done really well in nutrition, but we made sure that we weren't skipping meals. Yeah. So if we just didn't feel hungry, that doesn't help fat loss. So we have to actually still eat, and that was kind of getting back into being able to do that.
Yeah.
As well as getting that small exercise in. So since we came back from the cruise, you haven't missed a single day of getting the exercise in.
Correct, because I have to put the sticker on my countdown.
Yes.
And my tracker, or I will not be able to live with myself.
Yes.
Because that's how we are.
That's a good one. That's something that people can do in
yes.
to helping them get back.
Another one, set timers.
Yeah.
I have so many timers on my phone. I had to change it because during the podcast, my alarm would have gone off. To unwind, take the no screen, start to unwind, so that I could actually sleep through the night.
Yes.
So, alarms in the morning to get up and move. It's just because my number one strength in the 5 strength finders is focus. So if I start something, it's really hard for me to just stop it and break away from it. So I've learned that I have to do that for myself.
And something I do is I use emails or text messages. So rather than alarms, is I'll set something to send me an email every morning.
That's cool.
So first of the month, if I want to remember to change filters or pay a bill, it'll send me an email at 5 a.m. because I don't have sounds on my phone. Turned all the sounds off my phone. But that way, because I check email for clients all day, so I'll see the email in the morning and I'll know to make it that way throughout the day.
Yeah. But you get 50 spam calls a day, so hence the no sound.
This is also why my voicemail says, don't leave a voicemail. My voicemail on my phone literally says, I will
Please
not call
don't.
you back. Just text me.
Yeah.
Yes. But so I use emails. You can do text reminders. You said you do alarms.
Yeah.
But something that automates the memory. Yeah. So you want to kind of outsource remembering things. Yeah. Rather than having that in your brain, put it in a computerized program of some kind.
Or brain dump.
Yeah, brain dump helps to release a lot that you have on your head.
And then I realized just being always on my phone, which I don't really know when it switched, but I realized that like always having my phone and constantly responding to people was giving me so much anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
Like it just felt like I was always on. It was just, 365-day conversation,
Yeah.
and that is like so. As an introvert, that can be so draining.
Oh yeah.
And so I realized I just might not check my phone, but a couple times in a weekend.
Yeah.
Now granted, speaking of alarms, I have, special, my mom can always get through if there's an emergency. Rob can always get through. Like there's contacts that can always get through in an emergency. And there's certain sounds, and I have it all configured so that I know if I put my phone down or it's on focus, people can still get to me if there's an emergency.
If you want, and there's a way to discern by the ringtone or something like that. Yes.
But I remember when we got back from vacation and I started to do that, it was like, wow, I don't have migraine. Like I didn't get a migraine for 2-3 weeks after the vacation, and I was like, this is pretty nice.
And it frees up 30 seconds here, a minute there.
Oh my God.
Here.
We were. Remember when we checked our phones and we learned we could see how many steps we took in the last few years?
Yeah, steps
and
was
then,
funny, and then you could also see the time
and
spent.
Screen time.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I am appalled at myself. Now, granted, I use I have to dial in or something from.
Yeah.
So there's certain functions, but you can check usage by app or category.
Which I think is very helpful. Like it was neat to see how much time was spent texting.
Ugh.
And that could be something for a lot of people, like whether it's texting or, say, social media.
True.
Is we often tend to be on that more than we technically need to be.
Yeah, I know.
And it's something where there might be a degree of enjoyment to it, but then there's also a degree in which you might not be getting much for the time spent. So I might go from, say, 3 hours a day down to 2 hours a day, still have the enjoyment, but now I've freed up an hour a day.
Call it doom scrolling.
Doom scroll. But that's one way to get like what would feel like more time back. If somebody's
it absolutely did. It absolutely
did. That would be a great way.
Where I was like, I'm just gonna, and I think my phone now is smart enough to it just flips onto do not disturb or personal, a setting where it just, okay, it's this time of day, it just stops.
You can definitely program it that way.
Yeah, so that's been really nice. So we did trying to move every day.
Yeah,
something weight bearing cardio.
How do you make time for that? So I think that's going to be the big thing for people is how do you make time for things that you want to do but you can't find the time to do?
The in between, first thing in the morning. Yes. So the transition from work to not working.
Yeah, and that's a good thing to touch on. Yeah.
So it's the say the work clock, the end of day actually happened. Just take 30 minutes, even if you have more work to do. It's like, okay, it's technically the end of the day. I'm going to step away. I'm going to do something for myself, and then go back to it if I need to, or want to. So, or first thing in the morning, trying to get to bed a little bit earlier, wake up a little bit earlier. And there are some days where it's nothing but 10 minutes.
Yeah,
because can't.
That's the way it is. I tell clients sometimes is get up before the world does.
Yeah.
So get what you need before everyone else gets in the way.
Yeah.
So that's helpful, but you don't have to do that every day. One of my clients, she sleeps in on Wednesdays.
Yeah.
So she takes Monday and Tuesday, gets up early, does things for herself. She sleeps in on a Wednesday, which also happens to be the day she gets to work from home. Mm-hmm. So she gets a ton of extra sleep, an hour and a half or 2 extra hours of sleep. And then Thursday and Friday, she'll typically get up early again, but sometimes she'll skip Friday if she knows she can still be active on Saturday.
Right.
So she plays the games and say, okay, I know at least 3 days a week I would like to get up early. So if on Tuesday you feel totally wrecked, you had a really long Monday, an extra event, you just sleep in a little bit on Tuesday.
Yeah.
Give yourself some leeway, give yourself some options, but plan for a certain frequency. I think that can help.
And that's a good point, because I started, if I look back at my tracker, start small.
Yes.
Right? Okay, I'm just going to do 10-15 minutes a day. And I just need to move my body and build this habit and get used to this, and then I'll go to the next level.
Yeah.
Right? So you always level up yourself if you stay consistent over time.
Yeah.
We're finally getting back into big more now.
Get you back into the gym.
But it took 8-10 weeks of doing, thankfully we have stuff home. So we do that, and it's now, okay, I'm finding a little more wiggle room and some other bigger things have kind of slowed down, so that's how I can find some space here and there.
And that's the thing too, is like there's seasons of life.
Seasons, yeah.
So if you have a real long, like say you have an 8-week stretch where there's some huge project going on.
Yeah.
And you're like, crap, I don't think I'm going to get 4 times a week in the gym. Can I do 3 times a week, at least 10 minutes?
Right.
Whether it's a 10-minute walk, whether it's 10 minutes of bodyweight exercises, or if you do get some equipment for home, you can just do something. So knowing certain seasons, there are going to be things that, as much as you would like to exercise, there are things that sometimes take a higher priority.
Yeah.
But to recognize it, to try to group that into the smallest season possible.
Yeah.
Like how long do I have to be in that, and how quick can I get out of it?
Yeah. Just like if you're juggling pins or juggling balls, and some are glass and some are rubber.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You just have to decide which one can go that day or for that hour. Or
And
10 minutes.
I think something that's interesting to touch on is that concept of what can I let go of, and hopefully it'll come back, is the last 3 years, we both let go of our physical health stuff. We weren't working out as much, we weren't eating as pre-planned, more reactionary eating. We always eat well, but we were under-eating. Like, that's what I mean when we're not eating well, is we kind of under-eat.
Yeah.
And then training, instead of it being 4 to 5 days a week, maybe it was 4 short ones, or something like that. But we let our physical health go for a couple years, and all of a sudden it became like a greater priority to be like, oh, we need to pick that one back up and maybe let something else go.
Yeah.
So if you're dropping this one ball too often and hoping it's going to bounce up, like one analogy I have with a client was we were talking about a basketball. When you drop a basketball, however far it dropped, it'll only bounce half the way back up. And then when it falls again, it'll only bounce half the way back up. So very quickly, it's dead on the floor. So you have to try to catch that and bring it back into circulation before it's dead on the floor. So sometimes you have to rotate through. You
have to dribble.
You have to rotate through what you're letting go for different periods of time, whether it's a week, 2 weeks, a month, whatever it might be.
Yeah, a very good point. And then what's interesting, and it's taken, I think, a long time to, like, I've always had self-awareness, but really had to be super mindful about it in the last few years. But to say, I don't have the emotional bandwidth to do it.
That's very
right.
Good
like the first, I didn't do it for 6 months, and I wanted to, and I didn't.
Yeah.
Just absolute burnout.
Yeah, you were in recovery mode emotionally. So for the first 6 months of 2022, there was really no physical exercise, no nothing, because it was just trying to catch up, like emotionally, mentally. You still ate well.
And we started squatting.
Yeah, we started squatting.
Is that when I got my 275 squat?
Yeah, you went back to squatting at least once a week. And of course, because you're freaking amazing, really quickly you got super strong and hit like a PR.
And my jeans are weird.
Yeah, it's amazing. But it's neat to see how, in your own journey, you've gone through swings in the last couple of years of what could be neglected, what had to be focused on. Then that changed, and then we moved this, and we moved that.
Yeah.
So it's part of it is being agile and understanding what do I have in the moment, and what can I keep in, what can I leave out. So we talk about flexible habits. Like, for example, exercise, it can be 10 minutes a day, it can be a 30-minute workout, or it can be an hour in the gym. What do I have time for? I don't have time for nothing. I'm going to try to get one of those 3. But if it's only 10 minutes, at least it's 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Too often people get into that perfect mindset. Like, it has to be perfect. It has to
preach
be
to the choir, my friend.
Yeah.
I was in that mindset for far too long.
It's challenging because it shuts you down. So when it's all or nothing,
you just set yourself up to lose. Which is why the goals, it's like, that's why I said I learned to set attainable goals that I can control. Otherwise, it feels like I'm just setting all of these things to do and I'm failing because they're not in my control.
Yes.
And that's a terrible feeling.
Yeah,
it's demotivating.
Yeah. And it's helpful to know what's important. Like I talk about people with nutrition is, like, somebody will tell me, I just had somebody message me today, they were saying they felt like they were messing up on their diet because they were doing, I think they said it was like 40% fats, 40% carbs, and 20% protein. And they're like, I think that's too many fats. And I'm like, who told you that and why are you worried about that? That makes no difference.
Yeah.
And they've done a ton of studies for fat loss, whether it's performance or anything, that the amount of fats and carbs don't really matter much. The timing is more important.
Yeah.
But people have lost fat, whether they have a high fat, low fat, high carb, low carb. It's proven fact that it's just caloric deficit and that you have enough protein in there. So too often people get worried about nuances and small details, and that can make them feel run down and feel like a failure.
Just tune out the media. Stop watching the influencers. It's easier than you think, and it's stupid when you realize what you have what you have to do. I've never eaten more in my life than I have with you.
And that's why we have it on free on our website. So free on the website is a document that will take you through how to create your own nutrition program. 100% for free.
Yeah.
Because I just want people to be able to find good quality information, have no BS in the way,
Yeah.
not trying to sell anything.
Just live your best life.
No supplements.
Here,
just
free.
Crush it. Yeah.
Go live your best life. You're welcome. Tips hat.
There you go. Yeah. But I think that's something in regards to, we've touched on a lot of things.
I know.
But if somebody's feeling behind, how they can start to catch up, how they can start to get...
Baby steps.
Yeah.
Small steps. And if you recognize, you know what, I do want to do it, but I can't right now, it's okay. I'm not saying there's no excuse. You know, on one hand, sure. On one hand, no. You know.
Yeah, I mean, can you do 1 minute of bodyweight squats? Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody's got legitimately, they have 1 minute that they could do bodyweight squats.
Yeah.
So in the smallest of senses, is there something that everybody could do? Yes. The question is, people are like, is that even worth doing?
Didn't you do like 1,000 calf raises when we were moving my mom or something?
Well, it was when you were getting your eyelashes done, and the lady wouldn't let me in there.
Yeah,
so,
right.
Yes.
For the wedding.
Yes.
That's where you did the calf raises.
Yeah, I did 1,000 bodyweight calf raises, and I have never been more sore in my entire life. That was horrendous, but fantastic.
Oh my God.
But it's the
I'm trying to get you to shrink my calves. But anyway.
Yes. So when you went back to saying, like, starting small.
Yeah, very small.
It sounds almost stupid in what's the point? If you were to say, let me do 1 minute of bodyweight squats. The reason why I think it's a really good thing and why any book will tell you that it's a good idea is because if you do 1 minute, it very quickly becomes 2 minutes.
Yes.
Very quickly becomes 3.
Yeah.
And then you start saying, well, I have 1 minute between these two calls.
Yeah.
Or while I'm waiting for food to microwave, I'll do some squats. Yeah. It builds. Like you have to start, like to start a snowball rolling down a hill.
Yeah.
You have to push it.
Yeah.
There has to be some momentum.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the idea of starting small, like you said, is it starts the momentum.
Mm-hmm.
You have to start with anything. One thing that I liked was Jordan Peterson actually talked about in one of his books.
Oh.
Is he said to start with something so small that it feels like it's insulting. In the sense to where it's like, well, I want you to do 1 bodyweight squat today. And you'd be like, well, that's so stupid. And you'd be like, well, then why aren't you doing it?
Right.
And you would feel insulted because you're like, well, what do you mean? Like, yeah, because I could do it. And you can't say that you can't do it. You can do 1 squat.
Yeah.
You know? So his point was start with something so small that it's almost insulting because it at least starts. It gets that momentum.
100%. And I've done that.
Yeah.
We both have.
So that's definitely one good tip.
Yeah.
Do you have another good tip we touched on was the reminders, whether it's alarms, emails, text messages. There's an app called Do It Later. That is a way in which you can get text messages sent to yourself at certain times of the day on different days. And that sequence, I use that for clients and stuff. That's a really cool option. So there's a lot of things you can do. Yeah, Instacart. So we talk about in regards to helping to decide what to do with what you have to do.
What we say at work is help you.
Yes, help yourself, help yourself.
help you.
Yes. When we think about all the things we have to do, do we really have to do all of them? Or are there things we can delete? And that might take a hard look. But sometimes when we look at things and we say, yeah, I don't really need to be doing that. That's not giving me a great return. Maybe it's giving me some return, but it's not as great of a return as what I want to do in its place. So if I stop something small, but it allows me to do something bigger, that helps a lot.
Yeah.
Yes. And then we talk about defer. If there's something you're doing, say every day, that you can actually be doing every other day. So food, for example, if somebody does
eating.
Food prepping.
Just kidding.
Yes. Don't eat. You eat every other day. But you talk about food prep, a lot of people will prep on Sundays and Wednesdays. Because then they don't have to cook on Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and that saves time. So that's one option.
Yeah, meal prep service.
Yeah, meal prep services is really great. And then with what you do have to do, can you do it more efficiently, or can you delegate it?
Mm-hmm.
So you said Instacart. That's one of the ways we delegate grocery shopping.
Yeah, because we save hours.
Oh, that's amazing. So yes,
And we don't have to interact with people.
That is also amazing. That saves emotional energy.
Yeah.
Yes.
There are some days where you don't want to do that.
Yes. And we have stuff delivered from Amazon. Like we'll get foods or other odds and ends sent to us on like Prime Day or whatever that thing is every month, that subscription service.
Yeah.
Like I know one book I was listening to, he said he gets 9-volt batteries sent to him every 6 months.
I do that.
Yes. Oh, well, there you go. So my wife wrote this book. Yes.
Yeah, you just said at the beginning of the year, and then you're like, I'm gonna forget to do it, so it'll just show up, and I'll say, oh, it's like Amazon before.
Yes. So you get 9-volt batteries sent because that reminds you to reset your fire alarms.
Yep.
Yeah. And there would be other things. Like if there's something you do every month, you have it sent to you every month, every 2 months, 3 months, whatever it might be.
Yeah, it's
so
been the
those
greatest.
Are ways to like delegate.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's true. Just delegate to Amazon.
Yeah. And then like efficiency, one of the things I talk about with clients for efficiency is don't track all your damn macros.
Oh my
track calories and
gosh.
protein. That's it. You don't need to do like some people worry
That's
about fiber.
that's
or
the
food,
biggest.
all this
That
other stuff.
I just don't
calories
even
and
get me
protein.
started. I can't. I just
Yeah.
ah.
Can you think of other things that you do that like to improve efficiency?
improve efficiency?
Yeah, put you on the spot.
I don't know. It's my job.
Your
So
job is like
I'm
so you just do it 24/7
constantly.
all the time.
My brain just. It's just how my brain functions.
Yes.
I do not want to spend time doing something that I don't need to do or can be done differently.
True.
So I feel like that is a sincere statement.
Oh yeah.
Every day, all day, I'm saying, why don't we just do that? Can we do it this way or try this? Or I'm going to do, it's just always just how I do it.
Yeah, like for example, this is goofy examples, but just for fun.
I can't even think of one.
Well, like if I'm going to walk out to the kitchen to get coffee, I might as well take the laundry basket because it's on the laundry
like
room is on the
little
other side of the
stuff.
kitchen.
Yeah.
Little stuff. If somebody's doing dishes,
Bring the magic eraser into the shower.
there you go.
2-1 punch.
Yeah, just little things like that. Like when I do dishes, I listen to a podcast. It's
Yeah.
gives me something to learn while I'm doing something that's
Multitasking.
not super exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's part of it that helps as well. Yeah.
That's true.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I'd have to like think about it. That's a good question, like think on the spot about it, but I'd have to think about what we do like daily to really maximize it as much as possible.
Well, I cook all of our meals at one time. Like I'll have 3 or 4 different burners going with the oven with something else happening.
Chef Rob.
Yes, so don't talk to me, otherwise all the food is going to get burned or mixed up. So,
It's okay, your phone doesn't ring, so it's fine.
Yeah, but that's something like it's just little things like what I think is helpful to reiterate again is the small stuff. Is if you can be efficient and save 30 seconds here, a minute there, those little things add up, and that's the stuff where I think a lot of people are missing the benefit of.
Yeah.
When they're trying to catch up, is they dismiss the small things because they're waiting for this big like revelation of here's 5 extra hours a day I'm going to get. No, you will not.
Do you remember the book Don't Sweat the Small Stuff?
Oh yeah.
And it's all small stuff?
Yeah.
I think my dad gave me that book like long time ago. Like
It's a very good book.
dad wisdom. Love that book. Probably have it somewhere. Love that book, but in a sense it's really truthful. Don't sweat the small stuff, right? Don't get it bent out of shape about like what's really important. But also, don't sweat the small stuff is like don't assume something small is not worth doing.
Yes, don't dismiss it.
So.
Yeah, and I think that's a big lesson, an overall lesson I think that people can benefit from.
Yeah.
Is try to find the small things because that's what adds up to the big difference.
Yeah, there are days where I struggle and I talk to Rob and I say I feel like this is like it doesn't feel like I'm doing anything. And I'll say, but a bunch of little things adds up to one really good workout or one really long session, and every little thing gets you to progress, and you're still burning fat, and you're still building muscle. You're still if you're not building, you're shaping. If you're not, so there's always like a way to look at it, which has helped a lot. And plus, actually seeing the progress on myself.
Yeah.
And we've done podcasts where it's like I dropped 6 dress sizes for our wedding.
Yeah, that was wild.
And completely reshaped myself, exercising like once a month, it felt like.
Yeah, it was just
last year.
Very specific movements. Like, we were not playing around.
Was it 2 years ago?
I think it was in 2020 was a big change.
Yeah, so 2021 was a
change.
shaping. And then 2022, I got my squat really high. I squatted felt like 8 times that year.
Yeah, and that was kind of reiterating, like, you were having knee pain.
Oh,
knee pinching
yeah, the
and issues
pinching.
before. And
Because of ballet.
in 2022, we kind of reinforced that that's gone now.
Yeah, which is great.
You know, you were able to squat the 275, no knee pinching.
Mm-hmm.
So really cool that we were able to change the shape of your body, get you leaner, and to the point where it was a huge aesthetic change. You got into a smaller dress, and it was getting rid of joint pain and general movement pain. So even through all the chaos of everything that everyone dealt with since 2020,
Yeah.
we've been able to make a lot of significant progress by doing what would seem like insignificant things because they're all so small.
Well, you're a miracle worker because
Thank you.
you're welcome. Because you really, it's almost like getting back to basics, right? Where I had to unlearn everything that I learned
Oof, yeah.
from the fad books and the, diets and the bad coaches, or I don't want to say bad, like less than stellar coaches, or
They just didn't know what they didn't know.
They didn't know what they didn't know. And so really getting back to basics was huge. And thank you, because my mindset on so much has completely changed.
I'm glad.
Yeah.
It's definitely been how I've been able to survive and make my own progress while building business and,
Yeah.
helping people and doing all that.
Yeah. And then if you can, find things where, like carve out stuff. So one of my big goals a couple years ago was fix my skin.
Yeah.
So skincare. So I have this little device. It's called a droplet. It's really cool technology. It's like 2 PhDs from MIT, but I won't go down that road.
Yeah, female PhDs.
Yeah, 2 female PhDs from MIT designed the device
Mm-hmm.
originally for burn victims, and they realized, hey, we could use this technology for some really cool stuff for skincare. And so I thought, I'm going to get the device because if I can't do 1 minute a day,
Yeah.
right? So when you said the one squat, my head went to, it was just yesterday. I was using it on my face, and I was like, how come I'm using this and I'm anxious that I'm like not doing something for a minute?
Yeah, it's like you felt like you were like, oh my God, I have to do so many other things. I can't take this 1 single minute
Yeah.
to take care of myself.
But I did it.
Yeah.
And that day, just turns out that yesterday was the day where I, did something for 2 minutes, and that was my something that
It
day.
counts.
It counts. It all counts.
Yeah,
It all
and,
adds up.
And that pressure's real. People are going to feel that. So don't
Side
try to
note.
dismiss it.
Side note, because it's relevant. So when we drove, podcast is probably
Oh,
so long because I
That's
keep
fine.
going on
You can break
tangents.
it up into 2 if you need.
Yeah, we driving down to vacation. I mentioned it was the first vacation we had since I met you. So almost 4 years
It's
later.
the longest time I've had off in 12 years of business.
Yeah, it was my first vacation
Yeah.
in 10
Yeah. It's
9
been,
years.
Yeah.
So we're driving, and it's our honeymoon. It's our honeymoon. He's the love of my life. We have an amazing partnership.
Mm-hmm.
And so every day is a fun day.
Yeah.
So to stop, just point blank, I had a panic attack.
Yeah, you were crying, like flat out.
I
like,
had a
full-on
full-on panic attack
crying. Yeah.
before we left. And then in the car, I was crying.
Yeah.
We were driving
It's tough.
to a very nice hotel before we went onto a very nice cruise ship.
Yes.
So I'm the dick that's sitting in a car crying because I'm stressed I have to go on vacation.
It's real. It's real.
And it's real. No one could tell me that was not real. So I understand anxiety. And that in itself was like, okay, I think we need to take vacations more often.
Yeah, that's why we had to come back to a different life.
Yeah.
We were so just under
And didn't
pressure
realize it.
That just trying to step away for 7 days.
Oh.
Like
It was
you're in the car
7 days.
crying, panic attack.
Oh my God.
Because what can happen? What weren't we controlling?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it just goes nuts trying to think of everything that is going to be out of your control if you're not,
Yeah.
trying to control it all.
Yeah, and that, I mean, it illuminates how many things we went through and I went through in 4 years. Heck, in 10 years.
Yeah, you've been through a lot.
It's been a bit of a road, right? So it was just, tried to stay calm and say, okay, I can do this. I can go on vacation.
Yeah.
Rob was so sweet. He was like, do you want me to turn around? And I was like, no, damn it. Yeah. We're not turning around. We're going. We're going on vacation.
I was like, we can just stay home for the week if you want.
No.
Yeah.
But I was like, oh my God, this is so, oh my God.
Yeah, it's just wild. It's because part of you is freaking out, and the other part of you is like, why are you freaking out?
And then you freak out that you're freaking out.
Yeah. But I think it's a good insight for people because a lot of people struggle with feeling overwhelmed.
So when is this podcast going to post?
It's Sunday, I believe.
This month, though, right?
Yeah,
May.
In a couple days.
Oh.
What day is today? Today is.
I don't know.
It'll post
Tuesday?
on Sunday. Whenever you're listening to this, it'll be your Sunday, I believe. Now, watch it be Saturday, and I'm completely wrong.
Yeah.
It is a day in their life.
Ends with Y.
Yeah.
But it's Mental Health Awareness Month, so I'll just touch on that.
Yes, it'll post in May.
Good. Yeah. Yes. So I'm saying that too, and I'm talking about it on the podcast because you can get a lot of reach on your podcast.
Yeah.
And not a lot of people talk about mental health or anxiety. It's like this, if people don't understand it, they tend to just kind of like push it aside.
Well, people think you're weak if you have anxiety.
Oh, screw that.
And then people who have anxiety, there's still this prevailing feeling that you are weak.
Yeah,
or there's
tell me
something
I'm weak.
Wrong with you. Yeah, no, definitely not. But it's also like I know with business owners, like I do like my business clients who also run gyms or their business is personal training.
Yeah.
They freak out all the time because it's just so much pressure always.
Yeah.
So I don't know anybody that doesn't have some degree of stress or anxiety or challenge of feeling overwhelmed in their life.
I think it's just the times, right?
Yeah.
It's just now.
It seems like the busiest time that I've ever been alive.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, but it was knowing that and experiencing it, and like you're not alone.
Yeah.
If you're feeling it.
Yes, and I think that's helpful.
Yeah, but then it's also like a sign, like my migraines, and like the panic attack to go on vacation. And I know we mentioned, the podcast you're doing too much.
Yeah, so that was back in podcast number 865.
Yeah.
You can find all of our podcasts on our website. If you go to www.brutalirongym.com, the podcast player we have on there goes back 300 episodes, but we also have directions under that player on how to find older podcasts. So you can go back and listen to the podcast that Meredith and I did together, which was podcast 865, which was titled You're Doing Too Much. Yes.
Yeah. And in that, I would get frustrated because I would be told I was doing too much, and I would say no. And I would say that, how do I say it? Not that doing too much gave me the, like, anxiety attack on the way to our vacation. But it was not doing some of the things that helped mitigate that.
Yes, there's layers.
Right.
So one of the layers is not the stuff that helps manage the feeling of stress. Then the other layer is you're not doing too much. You feel as though there's too much to do.
Right.
There's a significant difference in that, in the sense to where reason why I like to touch it on it that way is a lot of times we feel pressure for what we should be doing, but some of that we don't need to be doing, and we don't need to have that pressure.
And that's your delegate.
Yeah, and that's part of just recognizing that and working on that. So it's not that you need to do less, you need to expect less that you can do. Like,
right.
We think we need to be doing these millions of things, but when we really look at it, we're like, hey, these are the 3 or 4 things that give me the most benefit in my life, and I want to spend the most time doing that.
That's a good point. That's a good point, because in my mind, when we did that podcast, I wasn't doing too much. I was doing everything I needed to do and I wanted to do.
Yes.
And I wasn't doing everything. So in my mind, I'm like, I'm not doing too much. I'm not even doing some of the things I want to do.
Yeah, let alone all the other crap everybody's putting on you.
Yeah.
Life and who knows what else.
Yeah.
But that was a good one to talk about, was the feeling of, if you're being told you're doing too much, you're most likely going to feel as though That's not right. Like,
Right.
that's not true.
Yeah.
So you're not wrong. It's just how it's framed, how
Or
it's viewed.
others take it with a grain of salt depending on who's telling you.
Yes.
Because they might have different expectations. So
Well,
that's
yeah,
another,
exactly
obviously.
true. If they say you're doing too much, it's like too much relative to what you think.
Well, what did we say? We're like, how many times do you just want to respond with, maybe you're doing too little?
Yes.
And it's like,
absolutely.
that would probably piss a lot of people off.
That might be okay.
Yeah.
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 But that is, it is a challenge feeling overwhelmed. People do deal with a lot of stress and anxiety, even if it's not talked about often enough.
Yeah.
I'm glad that you're willing to talk about it. And
Heck yeah.
make a podcast.
I just want to help people. You know,
Mhm.
I have no shame in it.
No, it definitely should be.
So we did a lot. And eventually, maybe everyone will find out eventually everything we did do. But we have, in summary, know yourself.
Yeah.
Right? Recognize when to ask for help, communicate what you're feeling, recognize it, but acknowledge and then kind of think about it. It's like, why is this happening? What is it about this moment? What is it about my life right now that this is happening? What do I need to, is there something I can change? Is this just a season? If this is the season, there were days where I had, in 2020, it was a habit tracker, and I would check it off if I brushed my teeth and washed my face. And that was my win the day.
Yeah.
And I knew rough seasons of my life before. And I said, okay, this is just one of those patches, and we're going to get through it. Mm-hmm. So know yourself. Small things add up. Small things matter. Small things can lead to big things.
Yeah.
And just kind of like evaluate what's going on.
Yeah.
Right?
And I think small things, for example, as well, is they give you a sense of hope.
Yeah, true.
If you feel that there's something you can control or do, then you feel like there's a different outcome that's possible.
Mm-hmm.
So starting small gives you a sense that there's something you could do, therefore there's hope for change.
Yes.
So doing something small, not only for all of the benefits we've mentioned already, but the benefit of just feeling as though something better is possible.
Mm-hmm.
That can be helpful as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome.
Cool. Well, I think we got a lot of stuff out, and I think we presented a lot of options for people. So I do think that if you, the listener, are feeling behind, but you want to be able to catch up, you want to be able to try to get ahead on certain things, there's a lot that we can unpack in here, and there's a lot of things that people can work with.
Yeah.
And so thank you for sharing like your journey and kind of what you've been doing.
I hope it helped. I mean, and we talked about, it was a significant amount of progress because I decided to make at least 20 minutes for myself a day.
Yeah.
And I did it. And I've been doing it for 10 weeks and 2 days.
Yeah.
That is more than I worked out in 2022. That is more than I worked out in 2021. That is more than I don't want to say more than I worked out in 2020 because we hit that
we crushed
tread climber hard for the wedding.
That's true, yes.
And all the bajillion RDLs. But
you've
yeah.
done really well.
Yeah, so the progress, it added up, and it was just 10 to 20 minutes a day.
Mm-hmm.
Clean diet, still crushing a lot of other goals, and finding my balance. But really, I feel like I traded in time texting for working out every day. 20 minutes.
There's a lot to be said about
100%.
People talk about social media all the time, but they don't also talk about things like texting.
Yeah.
You know,
check
there's a lot on your phone.
Check your screen time. Just for funsies, go into your screen time app. What is it called on an Android? We're house divided.
Geez.
I have an iPhone. He has an Android. You don't know.
I've looked at it, but I can't tell you how I got to it.
That's right. I remember that. Yeah. Go into your screen time and then just be astounded. Some of my friends on my former team at work one day was like, I dare you, go in and see how many Amazon orders you had one day. And I'm telling you, that's like tracking your calories for the first time.
Yeah,
it is just
shocking.
And, and screen time is like, oh my gosh, you just feel like you're on autopilot and don't even recognize it.
Yeah, I think people lose small bits of time so much throughout the day, 30 seconds here, a minute there. So much so that if they were to at least control that 50%, I feel like people would feel a huge release of there being available time that you didn't know you had.
Yeah.
And we're just like mismanaging.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Just give it a shot. I mean, after all, again, I'll keep going back to it's mental health awareness month. Yeah. So take it as your sign to do something for you and your mental health.
Absolutely.
And I really, for my mental health, I needed to exchange time spent in one area to time spent in another.
Mm-hmm.
And I've decreased my migraines and my glutes look better.
Heck
So
yeah.
win-win.
Yeah, you're making awesome progress. I'm
Yeah.
very happy for you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So I hope the podcast was helpful. I know it rambled a bit, but
No, it was good. It's definitely going to be helpful. It prompts people to look into these things and start to, if they've been wanting to make a change, they now feel, okay, I can.
Yeah.
I can. I've got some good ideas. I've seen that it can be done.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm ready to try it.
Yeah.
Yes. So what I'd also encourage is if anybody has any follow-up questions, maybe there's something you want to get clarity on or you want to ask some extra details, just reach out to us. Our email is brutalirongym@gmail.com. And we'll always be happy to make a follow-up podcast or answer any questions.
love to.
Yes, I always ask, I answer questions within 14 days. And you can email me anytime for anything. I don't always make a podcast out of everything, but I do always answer every email. So it's helpful because it can go towards helping someone else. So please don't hesitate to reach out. And then if you like our podcast, please share it. The more people we share it with, the more people we can help. So that way we just, help the world be healthier and happier. That's the goal.
Just help people.
Yeah. And then thank you to those who donate to support the podcast. There are high hosting costs on all the different platforms every year. If you want to donate, you can do so on our website, www.brutalirongym.com. That all goes towards those costs, and it's all very appreciated. So thank you very much. If you like the information we share in our podcast, you can find more from us on our social media channels. You can find us and please follow us under the name Brutal Iron Gym on Instagram and YouTube. Well, thank you for joining me, Meredith.
Oh, thank you.
Yay, yes. And then, as always, I hope this was helpful, and thank you for listening.